Call the meeting to order. And we'll do the roll call. Well, Tom Nisley here.
Yeah, Tom Lampert here.
Carl Rothbart.
And Scott.
Scott, you're on mute right now. If you can unmute that, that'd be great. Thanks,
Hi,
Scott.
sorry about that. Yeah.
All right, so I think,
So we have a quorum, so we can officially review this proposal.
Steve, I think you're up.
Very good. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Steve Finn. I'm the attorney representing 63 Park Street LLC and the Onero Foundation in connection with this application. With me on the Zoom is the executive director of the Onero Foundation, Lawrence Laforgue. Let me start off by, I'm going to be brief, but let me start off by saying that I originally reached out to the new building inspector about our desire to file an application with you all, and Attorney Todd Lampert was kind enough to get back in touch with me and wanted a preliminary indication of what we were looking for with regard to the certificate. And after those preliminary discussions, Todd reported back to me initially that we probably didn't need a certificate of appropriateness because our banners and sign were going to be temporary and not permanent. And then there was a further discussion that perhaps one of the banners might be permanent, and we decided to then go ahead and file for a certificate of appropriateness. And in the interim, since that time, I think we settled on the fact that all the banners.
Right here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve. Give us 1 second. I appreciate you halting for a second.
Of course.
We're fortunate enough to have another member join us here.
Wounded warrior.
But you made it.
Sorry, I'm late. Idiot. Idiot.
Good, okay.
Gentlemen, would you like me to start again?
No, I think you can just continue from
Just
where you are, Steve.
continue.
All right, very good. So, so the proposal, and actually it is reflected in our application, is for two temporary banners to be placed on the outside of the building while exhibitions are going on. Maybe the banners will be posted maybe a week or two before the exhibition begins, but they will be temporary in nature. And the other aspect of the application is a permanent street sign. And in looking over your regulations in preparation for today's meeting, I think Attorney Lampert's original analysis of this probably is the correct one, that banners and temporary signs don't really need to go before the commission. And then drilling down a little further, even street signs, and this one is particularly appropriate here because it's a replacement of an existing sign, albeit with a different size and all. But street signs generally don't need a certificate of appropriateness with from your commission as well. So we're sort of left with, why are we with you? Obviously, what meets your regulations and what is exempted or whatever is your decision, not the applicant's. But I did want to reinforce that perhaps we do not need a certificate of appropriateness. I will say this, that this is sort of the inaugural exhibition for the Onero Foundation. And that obviously with time, things might change and maybe at some point, one of the banners might become permanent. But for now, we're just seeking permission for these temporary banners and to replace the street sign as documented in the application. And that we will need to go before the Planning and Zoning Commission with regard to both the banners and the street sign application. And we would love to have your blessing with regard to these banners and signs, because my understanding is that when it comes to the historic district and signs and banners and such, that the Planning and Zoning Commission does like to hear from you about your take on this. So that's sort of my introduction. The executive director can answer any specific questions you have about the banners, the sign, the apparatus that will be used to hang the banners, and all. But that's really sort of where we're at. We'd love to hear from you, but of course, if you have any questions for us or if you want more details, please let us know.
So I have a question. The sign that is there now is clear. But I was under the impression that the sign that you're contemplating will be opaque and larger. Could you speak to that?
Lawrence, would you like me to take that, or do you want to sound in?
Sure, I'm happy to jump in if you'd like.
Sure.
First of all, I just want to thank every one of you for attending this meeting and for providing us with your guidance and your feedback and all your questions. We are new to the community, and we really want to make sure we do things that are appropriate, both in terms of the regulation and in terms of how the community is going to feel about it. So thank you for all the work you're putting into this. As far as the sign on the stone wall, the current sign is indeed clear. It's a plexiglass. It was probably put sometimes in the 90s, would be my guess. It is damaged right now. It's peeling off. The plexiglass in nature is very, is for outdoor conditions, is not, tends to weather poorly. So that's the reason why we want to replace it with a more sturdy material, in this case, brushed metal. It's in keeping with some of the ways that other institutions, cultural institutions in UK and are also putting their signs. We looked at the signs of the Glass House, for example, and we're working with a company called Dugal, which is quite well known here in New York State, works everywhere and with very reputable institutions to produce this material. We hope it will be have a long shelf life.
So that sign would not be being changed or not regularly being changed.
That's a permanent sign, the new address sign.
Yes, that's a permanent sign that will feature the logo of the foundation, the Onera Foundation, so so that people can easily find it.
It's on the stone wall.
Yeah, it's on the stone wall.
Yes. So in the document that we provided as part of the application, it's on the it is on page 8.
I also believe the sign you're proposing is smaller than the existing sign. It's a square sign and the existing sign is rectangular and longer.
It's correct that the current sign is 1 foot by 4 foot. This one is 2 foot by 2 foot, which is the same square footage total. We're trying to work and respect the regulation in place for signage on exterior wall as per the Planning and Zoning Commission, I believe. Please, Stephen, feel free to jump in on this.
That is correct.
It's my impression.
Go ahead, Scott.
It's my impression from the regulations that a sign of street and numbers does not have to be reviewed, but otherwise a sign does. So if it's got a company logo, I assume it does need to be reviewed by the Historic Commission.
I think that's a fair interpretation of your regulation, Mr. Phillips.
So can we see the sign by any chance?
It's on page 8, Scott, of the materials that were sent out to you, if you have them in front of you.
If that's helpful, I also have with me a sample of the material that will be used, but it's not the actual graphic element because we haven't produced it yet. We were obviously waiting for this meeting to have your feedback.
Well, again, it seems like our regulations are fairly clear about signage for house numbers and street signs that's not in our purview. So
Well, the reason it's in our purview probably is because it says the Onera Foundation, you know,
but it has their address as
Yeah.
well.
yeah, I think go either way, but I think it's still good to possibly, opine to it if we like it.
Do you
Yeah.
want to make a motion to that?
Yeah, why don't we do them separately, if that's okay with everybody? I happen to like what you've done there. I think it's very classy. I think it adds to the character of the house, so I'm in favor. So I'll move to have the Historic Commission approve the sign for the house that sits on the stone wall.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Those in favor, please say aye. or
Aye.
raise your hand.
Aye.
I haven't seen it, I'm afraid. I don't know what document you said it's on.
So Attorney Finn had sent out a package, and I think, Carl, you sent it out to everybody too, right? So Carl
Yeah.
had sent out a package about 2 weeks ago to all the board members, if you can find that. And I think it's a 12-page document. On page 8 on the bottom is a picture of it.
I just got the agenda, I'm afraid.
Okay. all
Yeah,
right.
so did I.
Take another look. There's 2 documents sent out, guys. One was the agenda, and then,
Yes, Steve did send it to everyone.
yeah, Steve sent it to everybody too, right? Yeah.
No,
So,
All right, well, I think, let me see if I can, Laurence, is there any way you can put a picture of that up on your screen right now? Do you have the ability to do that?
I could certainly try if I can share my screen.
sure.
Let me pull up the here.
Or even if you have a picture of it on the documents that Steve sent out, if you could just hold it up to your camera, maybe everybody could see it.
That might be easier.
I think so. I'm trying to make things easier.
Absolutely. It's
We're
it's very
technology,
right. Hopefully, let me know if you can see.
Yes,
See it, yes.
So the sign here, that's the sign that would be 2 foot by 2 foot. I can actually pull up if that so it would have the Onera logo. Hopefully
Yeah.
you can see it. And we will be printing it using this, we'll print it on this kinds of material. So it's a metal brush, very, very sturdy, 1/4 of an inch thick, very simple, very elegant. This obviously would not be the graphic, but this is to give you a sense of the material.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
So,
I think we had taken a vote. We had a motion, a second. The people here had voted in favor, so I don't know, Arthur and Scott, now that you've seen it, do you want to vote in favor of the motion?
yes, I would vote in favor.
Yes, yes,
Scott?
likewise. Yes,
All
it
right.
looks pretty nice to me.
Thank you. So I
so
think,
that motion is passed.
right, Steve and Lawrence, I had a question, and Steve, this goes back to our initial conversations regarding the temporary nature of the banners. I think at one point in time you'd mentioned, I think it's in the documents, that you're gonna have 3 to 4 of these events a year, and that it may be more of a permanent in nature. I'm not sure I'm saying your words correctly, but because they'd just be rotating, that we'd always be seeing those. So are they going to be up 12 months a year, just different times and being rotated, or are they going to be up maybe 2 months a year? You know, what's the length of time that we're going to actually see banners? I'd like to know that just for the record.
So for the-
Laurence, please answer.
Sure, sorry. For the time being, we have planned for our first exhibition to open on October 1st and to run through March 30th of 2026. So that would be a 6 months period. During this period, we'd like to make sure people are aware that there's an exhibition. That's why we want to put those banners up. There's a factor for those banners that it says, hey, there is something special, come in. So that's really just during the time of the exhibitions that we would have those banners. The next exhibition that would be planning at this point is for October of the following year. So, could we down the line have up to 3 exhibitions per year? That would be my hope. Would they be, 4 months each? I'm not sure. I think at the very least, we need at least 2 to 3 weeks in between exhibition to deinstall and reinstall. So the short answer would be that those banners will not be permanently installed. They will be only up when we have exhibitions. At the time, we only have 1 exhibition that's going to be up for 6 months planned for the next year. Down the line, we'd like to increase to perhaps 2 exhibitions and then 3 as a function of the success we get.
Thank you.
So, I hope it answers your question.
No, you did. First of all, I just want to put out, I love what you're doing. I think it's great for New Canaan. A big fan of everything you guys are trying to accomplish here. So, thank you for doing it. I think it bodes well. Let me ask you a question without saying we do or do not have jurisdiction over these signs, because I don't want to get there quite yet.
Over the banners.
Yeah, the banners.
Yeah.
My only concern, and I have a historic house too, is the house is so beautiful that I'm concerned that the banners, the way you have them, may take away from the beauty of the house. And is there any way, or have you thought of maybe making them on some sort of stands on the grounds off to the side so that the house isn't impacted and that it stays in its natural state so people can see the whole house? You don't have to answer. I'm just saying, is there any other way? Because the house is stunning, right? It's a one of a kind. And when I look at it, the banners sort of, to me, outside of the scope of this committee, take away from it a tiny bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's beauty.
I appreciate your comment, and I agree that the house is really stunning. I think that generally my understanding was that the Village of New Canaan likes to stay away from freestanding banners and signage as a matter of just overall aesthetic. But with that said, we thought about the impact, visual impact, the aesthetic impact of the banners. That's why, we're leaning towards like white banners. The way we think about it is just like the Met Museum thinks about it, right? So the Met Museum's building is an absolute masterpiece in New York City. Yet they have used those banners as a way to promote, and they've tried to make those banners as aesthetically pleasing and complementing of the aesthetic of the institution and the building in order to attract visitors, but at the same time be respectful of the site. So we really think about those banners as promotional banners. That's why I'm saying they're only going to be there during the exhibition, and that's also why we chose white for the banner.
Well, one white and one blue, right?
Yeah, that's an options that we've been sort of like playing with as well. But the reason why on page 1 we're presenting the option with the white is because we feel, I guess, more comfortable with it. So if white was more acceptable, that's that would be a good compromise for us to be able to have those banners. We think that they will do their job in attracting people without being too distracting from the aesthetic of the building, and more likely so if they're white, if that's a concern of yours.
So when you just have the one banner for the first show, is that going to be in the middle bay? There are 3 bays between the columns?
So we're hoping to have one banner on top of the door, of the entrance door, which is so in between the two first columns, starting from the left.
Right.
And that banner will simply have the Onera logo, again, as like signaling the house is the home of the Onera Foundation. And then on the right-hand side, so in between the two most right columns, there will be a
Right.
banner specific to the exhibition. So most likely putting the name of the artists that's on view or the name of the exhibition and a detail of the artwork of one of the artwork on show. So very similar. We're taking our cues from the Met Museum in New York City and the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C. We're trying to stay within kind of like the realm of what the public has come to associate with cultural institutions and museum institutions and how they promote themselves on the facade of their historic buildings.
Well, in all fairness, I believe that the general perspective and size of the Met and your mansion are so dissimilar that it's kind of an unfair comparison. If you were to have banners that were only 3 feet high along the street, that would be a closer comparison, but I'm just pointing out the slight distinction there. I want to, part of me wants also to suggest that you do advertising on the bulletin board in front of the train station as a regular thing. That's very noticeable to anyone traveling on Park Street. They have to go past it at some point. And well, in either way, I apologize for throwing those points in, but there's something about banners that can remind people of gas stations or someplace having a special today that you wouldn't want to miss. And I'm not considering voting against the banners, but I do think that as they're described, they might be distracting. And that's enough of that.
Well, it also now sounds like the banner above the door is a permanent banner. This,
That's my
because that's for your organization. It's not based on what exhibit is there. Is that true?
So it will only be up when we have an exhibition. And I have to apologize because my computer froze and I was disconnected from the Zoom for a few minutes. So I may have missed, if there was a question for me, please let me know. But to the question, whether the Onera banner sitting on top of the door will be permanent, it will not be permanent. It will only be placed when we have an exhibition.
Is there,
Yeah, I mean,
is there a graphic image of your proposals?
Yes, on page 1 of the document, and I'm happy to similarly
Hold it up again, please.
hold it up again. Yes, no, not a problem. And I'm sorry because it's in black and white. Didn't expect to have to share it.
That one, Mr. Phillips, shows the Onera sign in white rather than blue on the
Yeah.
left. Lawrence, while you're holding that up, how these banners are somewhat they're like a mesh, right?
Yes, they are a very simple mesh. This is the material that we're looking at. There's a
I
print.
think
Yeah.
Yeah, my point is, and that we're getting a little glare, but I mean, it's certainly not the same as looking at that building with no banners, but it seems to me that, and tell me if I'm wrong, that the banners are somewhat see-through. In other words, what's behind the banner on the building, on the facade of the building will not be completely obscured by the banner, or am I wrong about that?
So they are mesh, and to relieve the wind pressure, there also be holes in them. So they will probably allow to see through, but I mean they are meant for really displaying the visual. They are certainly more see-through than the banners that Mr. Bergman had on the building before, which was made of a thick fabric and gray background and white lettering.
Steve, thanks for bringing it up. That's a good point. I couldn't tell, from the pictures, you can't really see. It looks like it's a solid thing. My concern definitely is not if it was 6 months. Obviously, if it was 6 months, it's a one-time thing. You probably don't have to be here. My concern is as your success grows, which it probably will, which I hope it does, that it will become, a permanent item there. And I just want to make sure that we just don't take away from what's there. I'd love to see the fabric, actually. I know I can't see it now, but I'd love to, get an opportunity. I don't know if you have something that you could send around to the Historic Commission that we could take a look at what it would look like, or if there's a big piece, because that would be important to me.
Okay.
To see that. Let me ask one more question, and this is probably a tough one. Is there any opportunity to have them roll up at night or something, so they only go down during the day, something like that,
Yes, that's a great point. Absolutely. So the answer is yes, because we have planned for an attachment method that is really easy to attach and deattach the banner. So we can certainly consider this.
I think that would be a great happy medium for me personally, that if during the days you're doing it, it's up, but you could raise it at night. So, I know you have the lights on at night sometime and you see the building illuminated, and it's something, so I like to see it. So to me, that would be a really helpful thing. I don't know about the other board members, but I'd love to see something like that. That would make a big difference to me.
That would make a big difference if that's a possibility.
You like that too? Yeah.
Yeah. I can certainly, this was always the plan, to make it very easy to rig and de-rig this banner. I can certainly make it even more of a point to my installer to make it extremely easy to do that, because I get your point that at night it's a beauty to see this building with the lights, and that you don't want to miss that.
Yeah, and technology is pretty good where you hit a button and it rolls up at night, you hit a button, it rolls down. So I'd love to be able to see that. And for me also, I think the white ones are much better than the blue. I think it's more in the character of the building. Carl, were you nodding with that?
I agree with that, but I do not think that it falls within our jurisdiction to dictate that.
No, I agree. I'm just giving comments.
Yeah,
Yeah, the white sign on the right sort of blends in a lot more than the blue sign over
Especially
the
if it's
door.
mesh, where you
Yeah.
can see through it. I think it's going to be.
Is it possible for your sign over the door to be white as well with your logo on it?
That's definitely an option that we're considering, absolutely. And I can circulate the material and the sample material for which it's made, so you can see it in white.
I think I'm familiar with what you're doing with that material. I think it's really nice, actually. I think it's very classy looking, and I think it's good.
Thank you.
Let me, I don't want to cut anybody off. I'm wondering whether, the length of time these banners are up could simplify this process. Look, I know we could stand firm that they're temporary. Temporary is not really defined, but I've heard, maybe 6 months or 8 months. If is it possible for a certificate of appropriateness to authorize the use of banners for 8 months? And then if for some reason the Onero Foundation wants to, they get extremely popular and they want to have the banners up for 10 months, we would have to come back to your commission.
Well, hopefully whatever we decide today will make it unnecessary for you to return to the commission to be approved and then approved and then approved. If you were to decide that the banners are a distraction, it would be up to you to remove them. And I think not to us.
Yes, I understand that. I'm just, you know, I heard one of the commissioners talk about, you know, it's perhaps not in your purview to sort of dictate color, and I haven't had an opportunity to sort of consult with my client during this meeting to determine, you know, sort of what their preference would be. And so I'm reluctant to sort of agree to anything without further consultation. Of course, Lawrence, so you can sort of, you've done a very good well speaking for yourself, but obviously I am your attorney, and I certainly am happy to consult with you further and all on this. Lawrence, are you talking? You're
No, I'm not talking, I'm thinking. Thank you
okay.
for bringing that. I think that, you know, I really appreciate the committee, you know, time and effort, and their perspective on what would be kind of in keeping with the character of the house. And I take the note that white may be considered more acceptable. I would, you know, I would love to keep the options of, you know, other color and the dark blue the navy blue that we are proposing open. Also noting that here at the foundation, as I was going through the storytelling of the house and the history of the people who lived there, I found amongst the artifact of Mr. and Mrs. Bergman, this beautiful banner that they had produced for the 175th anniversary of the building, which I assume they raised in 2011. The banner is a textile, dark gray background, white lettering, and it says 1836, 2011, 175th year young. So there is a precedent for doing banners, fabric banners, so not transparent and dark gray. So I'm not sure what level of approval they've gotten at the time, if there's anything that any of you member of the committee may have history on. So I would love to keep that option open, because obviously if Mr. Bergman, who was clearly a incredibly talented, you know, visual artist, architect, and sculptor, decided that dark background, like a gray background, was more appropriate, he must have measured, you know, the contrast relative to the house, and but also what he was trying to do, which was to get the sign noticed, right, by the people passing by on Park Street. And so I would love to take my cue from him, you know, in respecting what he has done. After all, he's the one who I believe did a lot of the work to get the house landmarked. So respectfully, I would love to indeed ask if we could keep the option of having a dark blue color. You know, we're not asking for flashy neon yellow or orange or anything crazy, but if we could keep the option of using a dark background when it's appropriate for the purpose of the information we're trying to communicate, I would love to be able to do that.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment, and Steve, you and I discussed this. I do think if you said we're running this from October through March, and that's it, you probably wouldn't be here today, right?
Right.
So what I'm trying to do is solve something for not today, but for tomorrow, so that you guys can do what you do best, which is help the community and put out, these items to share with New Canaan. So I'm trying to solve a problem for the future, not for today. And the colors to me aren't that important. I was just talking from idea standpoint. So whether it's blue or white to me, not all that important to me. I was just trying to give you input from, I have an 1841 house. I'm right down the road from you. So I'm on the corner of Main and Heritage Hill. So I understand your love of the house too. And I know everything you're doing is because of the love of the house. So again, with Steve, it's not for the first 6 months, because that's anything you guys can do whenever you want to do. It's just, how do we solve this problem so you don't have to come back? So that's what I was talking about. But for me, if there's a way to roll those things up at the end of the day and have them out during the day and do what you're doing, I'm pretty good with it. That's how I feel.
Yeah, and the banner that Bergman had was a temporary banner,
That's
even
right.
though it may have been up for a year to celebrate the anniversary.
It was
but
not, it was up for like 3 months.
3 months,
I
yeah.
don't think it will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was 3 months. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the sort of banner we would not really be reviewing because it's temporary. But this is an ongoing sort of, there may be brief periods when there's no banner, but it's an ongoing situation of having banners here.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, the concept, if you can roll them up at night or if you're not, are you going to be open on the weekends as well?
We're Saturday only.
Saturday.
Is the plan at the moment,
Yeah.
and only from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Oh, you're only gonna be open one day a week?
No, we
Oh.
would be opening from Tuesday to Saturday. I was responding as far as the weekend is
Oh,
concerned.
Tuesday to Saturday. Okay.
So the banner will only be up when the office is open? Is that it?
Well, that's not what they originally proposed, but that's what
So we're talking out loud right now, just to see if there's a happy medium, if you guys would consider a happy medium.
If
No,
it's- well, what we're asking now is basically rig and de-rig the banner every night, right?
Well, no, I was wondering if there's a device where it would self-roll up like a shade in a house.
That was not the plan for the installation at this point. The plan was to have the banner installed. I don't think having an electric system here is necessarily impossible, but the idea would be to use small carabiners, like in fact, just simply to clip and unclip.
Oh, okay.
So that should be not too hard to do.
But I think, I'm sorry, Laurence.
Yeah, the original idea was to keep it up during the time of the exhibition.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is to make sure people know that the exhibition is going on. So just to have them unfurled, so to speak, or in place only when the exhibition is actually open, I don't think really is what my client had in mind. I think they plan to have them up for a week or so before the exhibition starts in order to let people know that something's going on there, that to spark their interest, and to also keep them up on days where the exhibitions are not open. But at night, it sounds to me that my client would be willing to sort of unclip them and allow people to view the entire facade unimpeded. Is that correct, Laurence?
It's something that we could absolutely consider. I would have to make sure that it's manageable in terms of like, rigging and de-rigging every night. So with that condition in mind, I could look, we could consider.
Because
So
it looks like they're attached up at the top of the second floor. To access that, to disconnect them at night would be well, you'd need a tall ladder or something to be able to do that, right?
Out of the
That-
question.
We have to
Doesn't
find
seem,
which we can somehow roll them, I think, up.
yeah.
Do
we have a motion? Are we waiting for a motion on the banners?
We haven't gotten there
We
yet.
haven't gotten.
We're still talking, still discussion going on.
I wonder if I could ask if a graphic material could be presented to the commission showing white banners versus blue or some other color. My sense is that white banners would compete with a beautiful colonnade on a different scale, whereas blue would recess into the background. I
Yeah,
don't know if anybody else agrees with that.
I do.
Okay, let me try and attempt to share my screen. Let me see. And can you see my screen?
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
So here is the banner, the white banner. Obviously, this is a rendering. But this is how the banners would look from the street. On the left is the banner that showcases the Onera logo right on top of the door. And on the right is the banner specific to that explains or gives a hint as what exhibition is inside.
yeah,
And if we look at the versions with the blue, this is an example, the version with the blue. And to your point, it stands out more, right? So
yeah.
I also wonder if the banners are overscaled.
right now they are 4 by 10, so 4 foot wide by 10 high. And the banner that Mr. Bergman had originally installed was actually wider, 5'6" wide by 8 foot high. So a little shorter, but a little wider.
No, Lawrence, I think the question is on the picture, and maybe I'm wrong with what Scott's saying, are they overscaled? Because if you take a look from the top to where they end, that looks like it's more than 10 feet. Just based on the window heights and everything, but maybe not.
They
Or is that
look like
exactly
they're more
scale?
than half, they're more than half the height.
Yeah, and I would think it's more than 20 feet from bottom to top, but I could be wrong. I'm not sure the ceiling heights.
It's possible that may not, that they may be overscale on the drawing, and I don't have the measurement of the column in mind to confirm that. This is
It looks like
obviously a
more than 10 feet.
It does, right? It looks like it's overscaled, right? So maybe it's only halfway in between the two windows, which would be a lot better to me,
Mhm,
right?
Yeah.
So,
mhm.
but it is 4 by 10, right?
Yes, that's the plan. I can double check that and, provide you with an additional submission, but
Yeah, because the way the white sign is, it's coming down over the window head of the first floor window. If it were even just a little shorter, it would make a difference.
I agree. Like if it was halfway in between the two windows, right?
Halfway in between, yeah.
I'm thinking the same thing.
Is
that's
that a possibility on your end to shorten it so it's halfway between the first, ends halfway between the first and second floor windows? That would make a huge difference.
Sure.
It looks like shorts that are too long that go over your knees or something.
fair, and thank you for the feedback. It's absolutely something we can do.
So just in consideration about getting out of here before 5 o'clock, I would like to ask for a motion right now that somehow includes approval of the banners.
Well, I think if you could shorten them,
That's
that's,
that's essentially that.
So if the motion is approved, if we shorten it, the answer is absolutely we can shorten it. I actually think it's an excellent feedback that you're giving us and that this will make those banners better. And I appreciate it very much.
All
So
right,
we,
so I'll make a motion to approve the banners using the material that you set forth, so long as the banner falls no further than halfway between the two windows, the downstairs and the upstairs.
this is clear.
And you're all good with two different colors like that?
I am.
Yeah, I would,
I want to be sure that that motion is within our purview.
I think visually it's an improvement. I think.
Well, that's, yes, I agree. It is an improvement and less of a distraction, but whether our saying how long the banners may be in the motion may not be in order.
Well, the remedy for Attorney Finn is to object to that if he doesn't like what's within our purview. Sometimes courts exercise more discretion than they can, and then they have a remedy if they want, if they think we've done that, but they seem to be in agreement with it, so.
Yeah, that's the
If you
difference.
weren't in agreement, I'd love to have further discussion. If you're in agreement, I don't seem to have a problem getting it approved so you can move forward with it, so.
Let's call.
And I'm not trying to,
call for-
push it down anybody's throat, so if it does make sense to you, and you like the idea, I'm more than happy to make that motion for you.
Let's call the question. I'm in favor.
Steve, is that good with you guys? I just want to make sure everybody's good. before
Yeah.
we-
Yes.
I have two quick points. Laurence, first of all, do you need time to think about whether having the banners end up halfway between the first floor and the second floor windows is acceptable to you? Or are you in a position now to agree to that? And you're free to, you should take as much time as you feel you need in
Yeah.
order to decide that. And if you can decide it now, great. I'm sure all of us would love to try to wrap this up today, but that's no reason for you to feel pressure to agree something that you may regret.
So I have instinctively, based on the discussion and based on looking at the drawing, the rendering that I shared, this seems like to be an excellent piece of feedback, actually. So I have a tendency to say yes. Of course, I would feel a lot better if I could actually ask my designer to re-render this. So if possible, I'd like to do that, but I also understand we're trying to find resolution, so.
I agree that it would be very helpful to see a finished product from you. So we could really, everybody could see what we're getting.
So what would that mean in terms of process or protocol moving forward? Does that mean another meeting
Well,
or?
sometime in September, we will be able to have an answer.
Ooh.
That's good.
Why don't, I think that because of the timing and I would, if that's the implication in terms of timing, I would like to go ahead with agreeing now to having those banners being no more than halfway between the first and second floor.
Yeah, and Steve, if after Laurence looks at it, she determines it's unacceptable, you can always come back to us and ask for a modification, obviously, and we can consider it at that time. So I don't want you to feel like you're locked in forever. We're here to work with you, not against you, okay? So if you do those renderings and you look at them, you're like, God, it's just not gonna work for us, come back and maybe we'll take a second look at it for you. So you can ask for a modification always, okay?
Yes, I appreciate that. I mean, the other issue about jurisdiction is whether you're just sort of making a motion for temporary banners, which, as we know, are exempt, or whether you're making a motion for permanent banners with the understanding that we are not going to have them up 12 months a year. But I throw that out for your consideration because, I'm looking at 3.7 subsection 9. Temporary signs, including event banners, are non-regulated activities that do not require commission action. But look, as I said, as Laurence has said it so eloquently, we really do appreciate what you all do. We want to be a good neighbor. But that is a little bit of a legal problem there. So I don't know how you guys want to handle that.
You know, Steve, I would say, and I'm not speaking for everybody, that we're looking at these going forward as probably being a permanent nature, even if they're changing every 3-4 months. So for me, I'm going on this as it's a permanent, and the definition of permanent and temporary could be discussed, another day, but I'm saying they're permanent, that so long as you have an event going on, they could be hung. If there's no event, they should come down, but that they could be used going forward in this fashion.
Okay, Laurence, you're okay with that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, I think, thank you so much for your flexibility and the understanding that we do have some time constraints. September's a long way away. But we appreciate the fact that we can come back if what's being proposed and hopefully passed today is something that would be difficult for us to live with.
And just to make sure I understand what we have a motion for, we have a motion for permanent banner if with the 2-color option being okay, the material I showed being okay. If the banner's length is no longer, doesn't come more than halfway between the first and second floor. So essentially,
And the banners will not be used when you're not having an event.
and
When
the
you're
banner,
not,
but the when I mean event is we have exhibitions, so they are not.
exhibition, excuse me, yeah. So if the exhibition is not for 3 months, there'll be no banners up during that time period.
Yes, they're very clear. Great, thank you.
I'm sorry, just to be clear, but you have no problem with the banners being placed a certain amount of time before the exhibition actually opens, correct?
I think you said
Correct.
2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you said? Yeah.
Is 2 weeks good, Laurent?
Yes, thank you, Stephen.
Yep.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And I'll just speak for myself, hopefully for everybody, we're looking forward to you getting open in October.
So do we, thank you.
Yeah.
So those in favor, please signify yes.
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 Yes. So is that unanimous then?
Get it?
The motion is passed.
Steve and Laurence, thank you so much for the presentation on your exhibitions. Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Excited to walk over there on a nice fall day and see what you got.
And you actually have an invitation, all of you, if you'd like to stop by, once we're a little bit more down the road, I would love to give you a preview of the exhibition before it opens, sometimes in
Great.
September.
That's great.
I'm gonna do that and take you up on that.
I
Thank you
want
very much.
to
luck.
thank,
And,
I want to thank each and every one of you commissioners. We really, really appreciate the feedback, the flexibility, and the discussion. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well,
Thanks,
thank you.
Steve.
Thank you.
Good seeing you.
The
Laurence,
meeting-
nice meeting you.
The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay.
Good. And good to see all you.
You
Good to
know,
see.
here we go again, but I knew Curiosity very well.
Mhm.
So WRKK is, what is that?
I'm actually looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be great.
Yeah. I'm not saying.
Is the meeting adjourned? Okay, thank you.